Welcome to the Lucid Podcast, where I am literally lying on the floor. Not laying, because my friend Alma, who's 105, would say you don't lay eggs. You're not an egg. You don't lay on the floor. You lie on the floor. I am lying on the floor next to these beauties because I would like to share with you what I have been doing for about the last 6 months. Let's say 6 months. This is a way that I found that I can make changes in my life. And I want to share it with you because it has worked. It took about 6 months. Maybe it's longer. I don't want to give a time frame because everyone's different. So it's not about that, but it's about finding ways to remind ourselves of what we really want to do and help to release those old patterns that prevent us from doing that. So what I want to show you here, and maybe you can't see it well, it doesn't really matter, you don't need to be able to see it. You'll understand. So there's 7 days of the week. There's Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, Saturday. Beginning of each week, I would lay out the 7 days. And I had a place to do this, kind of a good sized place. And I knew I wanted to practice my guitar. Here's guitar. I knew I wanted to practice my guitar 5 days a week. So I had 5 green ones that say guitar. I knew I wanted to sing. I wanted to sing 6 days a week with myself at home. Spend some time singing. So there were 6 of these yellow ones that say sing. I knew I wanted 5 days of strength, where I do some kind of strength training. So there were 5 red ones, say strength. I had the orange ones. I didn't have enough colors, or I already not done with that, but the orange ones were exercise cardio. So one of them says bike, one says jog. There's one that says elliptical, stairmaster. So I had those. And then the purple ones were, I secretly gave each day sort of a personality or a feel. And I wouldn't know what it was. So the purple ones I randomly set upside down. And I have more than 7 of the purple ones so they could rotate through. So like this purple one, when I would turn this over for whatever day it was on, this one says listen. And so I would, spend time during the day to listen. If anything came up, I'd remember, oh yeah, this is the day where I listen. So I'm going to listen in this moment. This purple one says enjoy, surrender, flow, rest, relax, hold, receive. And then I also put in the elements because I love elements a good bit. Wind, water, air, thunder. I use the lake. I use the I Ching elements. So what I would do is I would, at the beginning of each week, I'd set up the days. And I'd also look at my calendar and be like, okay, this is not a good day for me to try to do guitar and singing in the evening because I'm busy. And so, leave them off that day and put them on a different day. So I try to look at my calendar, put things where I had spaces, or also, sometimes remind myself, like, oh, let's, get this one done, try to get this, guitar done in the morning before, so you have time, blah, blah, blah. Or so how would it work? How would it actually come into play? So I'd get to Sunday. Sunday was usually pretty easy, not too busy. I could get it done. Great. And I would put, once I'd finished them all, I'd put them over in a little pile on one side. And let's say I get to Monday. Monday's a little busier and I don't get to guitar. So I put all the done ones over on that same side, and then I put guitar over on the other side, meaning let's see if we can get guitar in somewhere else. And that would often happen. There might come a night where I'm like, oh, I actually can get this guitar in tonight. I didn't think I could. And then I'd move it over to this side. This was so helpful just to remind me each day that I only needed to do that day, right? I'm just doing this day. I'm not doing any other day but this day. And also to remind me if I don't get to it, it wasn't the end of the world. I just put it over here and then move on, and I often could get to it later. But let's say we get to Friday and I'm exhausted. It's been a hard week. I don't want to practice my guitar, but I noticed that I already have two unpracticed guitar things sitting over here. And it was like the visual reminder. I know sometimes I could feel so overwhelmed or just so despondent or whatever that I didn't want to do it. And then I'd be like, but you haven't already done it two other times this week. So this would be the third time you didn't play guitar, practice guitar. And it wasn't that I have to. These are things I want to do. I know I want to practice my guitar. I love practicing my guitar. So when I would see the piling up over here, I'd realize, okay, there's kind of some sort of resistance, or let's, so I would, okay, let's just do it, no matter how tired you are, no matter how hard it's going to be, no matter how awful. Let's just do it. Let's practice guitar tonight, Friday night, because you've already not done it twice. And without that visual reminder, I would not have kind of pushed myself to practice guitar. So I practiced guitar on Friday, even though I was tired and despondent and whatever. And it always went fine. It was always fine. And I was like, I'm glad it did it. And then I put them over here. A lot of times on Saturday, I would have time to make up. And then on Saturday, I'd be like, oh, I can make these two up. Sometimes no. And so sometimes I'd finish a week and I'd have like two guitars, one singing, and a strength, all sitting over here. Maybe I'd have a bike in there too. Like I didn't get to those things. And so I would know, like, okay, what didn't I get to? And I was like, oh, well, one strength, one bike, no big deal. One cardio, one strength, but if there's like two sings and two guitars that I didn't get to that week, I noticed, okay, you're not. Those are really your creative outlets. Your like really kind of think about those next week. Let's see if we can get more of those in. Then I, create the next week, start all over, create the next week, and do it again. And there were weeks where I did everything. Did everything. I might have to, make some up at the end of the week, but at the end of the week, I've done it all. It was great. There were weeks where these were few and far between, but there were some weeks where I had a good, hefty pile to the not done side, and I just knew that I couldn't have done any better that week. It was just one of those weeks. But those were rare. For the most part, when I had undone things, especially when like in the same color, like multiple guitars or multiple sings or even multiple strengths, I'd realized that was more of me sort of resisting myself and what I want to do. And so I would just consider that going into the next week, and notice any resistance in myself to following through with what I want to do. Again, these are not things I have to do. These are things I want to do, things that bring me joy and help me be healthy and balanced. So, like I said, I did this for about 6 months, and things changed. This is like probably the third or fourth iteration. Meaning, at the beginning, I had fewer. Meaning, I think at the beginning I just had like exercise, and then I realized no, actually, for me, there's a difference between cardio and strength, and I wanted to delineate that. I wanted it to be clear. What I was doing. Anyway, I can't remember really how this all started, but I know, it kept like reiterations, and I did like the colors were really great for me because then I could see when I get clumps of colors. That's when I knew, oh, you're kind of, that's where your resistance is on that certain thing. It's been a very, very helpful tool. I don't, since I've come home from my 10-day meditation, I didn't set it up this last week. I've only been home 1 week, but I don't know if I'm going to. I don't, just because this last week I've just been doing it, and a little more, just easily. So I think I'll save these. I don't know if I'm going to, I don't feel like I have the need to set them up. But that said, this was a beautiful way for me to incorporate a more balanced life. So there have been times when I practiced the guitar a lot. I just did it naturally. But I wasn't also singing. I wasn't also trying to get singing in that time. I wasn't also trying to do things. What I think what this was, I'm trying to put it together in my head as I'm telling you. What this was a balance. So there have been times where I practiced guitar for an hour every day, and it was amazing. I'm not in a time. I'm not in a place right now where I can do that. Um, and so, because I also want to sing, I also want to exercise, I also want to do all these things. And so, for me, this was about how can I incorporate a little bit of a lot of things, because that seems to work better for me than doing a ton of one thing at a time. A little bit every day is my form of balance. Is how it might not be yours, but it's how I bring balance into my life. So I just wanted to share this in case it's something that a visual representation of what you want to do in your life, things that you want to incorporate, and ways to work with yourself. Like I said, set it over to the side when you don't do it. Find other days that you can do it, or just notice when it didn't happen that week, and try to be more mindful the next week. And I feel like it helped me realize visually what I want to do and remind me when I was getting off track before I got too far off track, and kind of helped me keep the steady, straight, and narrow. And it feels good now to have these habits. They're just kind of there. And it's less about, it feels less about like doing the chore and more about just doing what I do. Like, this is just what I do. This is just what I do. Yeah, enjoy it. So, moving into new thought patterns, new verbal patterns, new body patterns, new patterns of following through on what you want to do for yourself, new patterns of working with yourself, finding the ways to work with yourself. Like, what does work for me? How can I make positive changes in my life? And again, I don't believe positive changes start with negativity. So how can to make positive changes, we start in positive ways. So finding those positive ways of working with yourself to make the positive changes. Maybe instead of positive, the word healthy, I might use healthy. Finding healthy and balanced ways to begin. This was my healthy and balanced way to begin that led to healthy and balanced changes. So if you want the changes in your life to be healthy and balanced, they begin from a healthy and balanced place, not from a place of extreme. So think about, what are the changes I want to make in my life? What would I call them? And then start from that place. Meaning, if you want healthy and balanced changes, start from a healthy and balanced place. And then that is the seed you're planting, and that is the result that you'll see. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been very helpful for me. And I would not be surprised if there comes a time in my life where I'm changing again and I create something like this. Or maybe it gets, needs a revival. And there's so many creative ways for us to work with ourselves, ways that we can see that the what brings us meaning in our life is important, and know that we can do what we want to do with our lives, even when it's just the most simple thing, like a daily pattern of health and balance. So I hope you have a beautiful day.